Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we do have the full specs of the first IceRiver release. So far, even though they said a series, it's only the first unit and it's the AL0. It's the one we're kind of banking on. But we're going to look at the price, we're going to look at the specs, we're going to talk about the shipping window, and now we have a very clear picture of kind of what to expect. So now we can really gauge where the value is. We're going to look at profitability. We're going to look at what to kind of expect and to see how this thing stacks up and whether or not it is worth a purchase. Okay. So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So kind of like what we're kind of expecting, or not just even expecting, but kind of anticipating, which is why we did the purpose of the video the other day with doing the guesstimates, was to kind of see value just in case when they release, because in this case it released and it was immediately available for purchase. So you kind of want to have like ballpark figures just to kind of see if there is going to be value there so you can make your decision. Because sometimes, again, you have a monumental decision to make and you don't want to do it based on FOMO. You don't want to do it like, oh man, it might sell out, and you want to do it based on like, okay, this is kind of what I was expecting. As a matter of fact, it's slightly better, and you can go from there. Okay, so obviously with something like this, it's $800, which is a significant amount. But it's something where you can like, okay, it was worth a bet. Okay, so we're going to talk about just everything, because this is a game changer, and the specs, as a matter of fact, were a game changer also. So let's get to it. So the AL0, 400 gigahash at 100 watts. So relatively close to what we're kind of guesstimating. And in reality, to me, that's what's kind of shocking. Realistically, I thought it would be closer to the AL box. Okay, so we're kind of doing best case scenario. So in that sense, it did hit one of our more better case scenarios because it is pretty efficient. It's to the point where it's within 10% of the bitmain unit. The bitmain unit's 225 joules a terahash. This guy's coming in at 250 joules a terahash. So again, within 10%, which is pretty nuts. Okay, that's something that I was not expecting. So even with just that little bit of info, a lot of takeaways here. Number one, meaning that they do not have to necessarily release a mid-tier unit like they were kind of forced to in the past just because of the wattage limitation. Now, because it's essentially right there, they can release a direct competitor to the bitmain unit. Okay, that's pretty big. The other big thing, the pricing is matching the bitmain unit. They are coming in at that $2,000 a terahash level, which is big because, again, this is the small unit, which these smaller units typically have a premium, meaning if they were to release bigger variations, which it's extremely likely they will, and probably extremely likely that they will release a big boy unit, it's probably going to undercut them a pretty good chunk. Okay, is it going to be something where it's like 50% off? No, but it's going to be just enough to dissuade you from getting this guy. Okay, because even just this guy, even if they don't release a direct competitor to this guy, these are going to be massively more appealing just scaling into that unit. Like for me, even if they did release, let's say a 12, 13, 14 terahash unit, if the price is scaled, I would be much more interested in a version half of that size, like a 1200 watter, similar to like the AL2, what we were theorizing that could be. Just because, again, it's reducing the amount of risk because of that price point. Okay, because again, at these high prices, anything can happen. Okay, so very, very interesting. We're going to see if they do decide to release a direct competitor to this guy, which if they did, I would not be too excited about. So one thing to factor in, what does kind of make these guys more appealing, is that since they scale perfectly, the efficiency is there and the price is there, it's a lot less likely that a lot of people are going to FOMO into this guy. The scare with this guy is people FOMOing in like crazy and the hash rate skyrocketing, because again, this guy is so dense, it's not going to take too many units to massively affect the hash rate. If IceRiver does not release a big boy unit and they just kind of stick with things on the smaller end, that's better odds of the hash rate not going up so massively. Okay, is it still probably going to? Sure, but now this guy got massively, massively less appealing because you can buy a small slice of it in this guy. It is right on par with the efficiency, right on par with the pricing. Okay, so The little bit of info we got here is pretty game changing in my opinion. Okay, this does kind of change things quite a bit. Okay, so does that mean we FOMO in? We'll talk about value here in a second. But it is kind of surprising in my opinion. Another thing also, this is a tinfoil hat thing. The fact that they did match the efficiency, that to me is kind of telling. Okay, what I'm taking away from that also is the fact that it's likely that there's going to be a pretty fast gen, meaning that I would not be surprised to see an AL2 within 6 months. Okay, because what do we see currently when we compare the IceRiver Caspa units and the bitmain Caspa units? The bitmain units are still that gen ahead with this recent KS5 release. Okay, so whatever's going on there, it's pretty likely that they'll be able to apply to this guy, and we'll have a similar thing with like the KS3 and the KS5, where it was a 6-month generation where they double the efficiency. Because these things are on par, I could see that being here the case here also. Okay, the other side of that coin is that maybe IceRiver just did release top tier chips on this case, and they are top tier now. Okay, what to me is more likely is the fact that the AL1 is a gen behind if we are comparing like latest and greatest. Okay, so like for me, right off the rip, that's how I interpret that. And if I'm gonna take that much of a risk in terms of capital being 30K, I need to be, again, I wouldn't spend 30K on it regardless. But if I were going to, it would be under the guise that this is going to be the guy to get me through the bull market. That this is gonna be king of the hill, at least potentially for a solid year, right? Because that would be the benefit with buying the latest and greatest and the biggest unit that you can possibly get, is that that's gonna be the guy. But considering what we just saw with the KS3 and KS5, what we just saw with these new Bitcoin units, to me, it's potentially, right? Not super likely, not guaranteed, but the potential just got pretty significantly higher that that's going to happen. Okay, so again, that speculation part is tinfoil hat. We don't know, but that's just kind of what I see. Like, I would be more bullish on this guy if the IceRiver efficiency was closer to the gold shell unit, because that would give me more confidence that at least the bitmain unit is a gen ahead, therefore in a certain way potentially justifying the price point, right? Realistically, again, I would not be spending that much, but that would give me more confidence that it is more latest and greatest. But the fact that they're on par, kind of weird. Okay, so those are two really big takeaways. Now, the other competitor we have just got wrecked again. Okay, they keep taking those L's. It is what it is. So the AL box did get repriced, and Gold Shell did release their tweet today also, saying essentially what they're going to do for the people who did pre-order the AL box 2, they're going to give them another one free. Therefore, what it is, they're reducing the price. So it is like what we speculated yesterday. That's what it seems like it is going to be. That the AL box 2 is now 3K, the AL box 1 is 1,500. Okay? Very stupid play on Gold Shell's part. Does not make any sense when it was extremely likely that a AL0 was going to be announced, a direct competitor to their units. Why would you not wait for them to release their price and then adjust yours accordingly? Okay, Gold Shell released their tweet first. I have no idea why, and then got wrecked yet again. Okay, so WTF? Like, I don't know who's like running the show, who's calling the shots. I don't know how dumb you can be though, bro. Like, that just, I don't know. It's like bad call after bad call. On top of the pricing factor, even, or like whatever you're gonna do there, why wouldn't you wait for that and then price it accordingly from there? Okay, because now this is your fix for the people that you wrecked. They're still getting freaking wrecked. Okay, so just for comparison purposes, the AL box 1, less hash rate, 360 versus the 400 over there, and nearly double the wattage. Okay, and double the price. Again, the AL0 is nearly half the price of this thing. 0 cents. 0 cents. Okay, it's just mind-blowing how they can be like 10 steps backwards. Okay, but whatever. So AL box 2, same thing. It's on the same price level. So the key takeaways, just to sum it up, $4,000 a terahash for the gold shell units, that is confirmed, and then 2,000 from both bitmain and the AL0. Okay, so they are definitely way off base. What they should have done is, again, gone closer to the AL0, maybe met them halfway in between. Maybe make the AL box 2 under 2K, $19.99, and then you can play on the fact that it's available now. Then at that point, you can somewhat justify it. We could calculate, see if it's worth it, but for it being double, like, it's hard to really justify that you're going to make that difference in that time. You're just kind of increasing your risk at that point. Okay, so we'll see. Hopefully it still remains dynamic. Maybe they still do update, but it's just very weird decision making, guys. Like, I don't care. I'm all for competition and I want them to do better, right? This is why we get at them so much, but it's like stupid ass decision after stupid ass decision. It's really hard to even like remotely support this garbage. Okay, so it's not understanding that the products are. It seems like this gen is doing well. The units are good for what they are, but it's like the marketing and like pricing, it just 0 cents. They're like wrecking their people release after release after release. Even when they try to fix it, get wrecked yet again by the competition, which again, they should be the leaders in this space. They started this space. Why are they 20 steps behind the new competitor? 0 cents, right? But again, people just continue to shill this garbage, continue to promote this garbage, and continue to promote these business practices by doing so. Okay, it just makes 0 sense that people are willing to give up their morals for a stupid little shitbox, right? Again, it's just promoting garbage. It's a whole different thing. I'm gonna get into that. Let's try to stay on topic. Let's continue on. So for me, like the gold shell, absolutely no, unless they continue to lower, which is possible, but again, it's gonna make them look even dumber. Okay, so we'll see. Hopefully they do, because again, this price point makes no sense after this guy. Okay, because the only thing they do have going for them is the fact that it would ship sooner. So if they were to meet somewhere between, again, I don't expect them to match it, but at least get close, right? It's hard to say, right? Especially after, at the bare minimum, they should, here we go. Okay, last thing I'll say on this. They should have at least, the people who did take the plunge, the people who did decide to like take the wager and support them and purchase that unit, you should price match this guy for those people. For those people who decided to take that plunge, hook them up, man. Like, help them out. Like, show like customer service. Like, do something for at least those guys. I could understand for everybody else, leave it at whatever price you want. But you've been wrecking people so bad. Like, at least do this one good deed. Start showing you're going to go in the right direction, right? So enough on that. The other thing to be wary of is, again, these profit calculators. So you're going to see not only these websites, which again, they're here to sell these units, right? But also from people promoting this thing. You're going to see thumbnails. You're going to see different things. Oh, this thing's making 25 bucks. Oh, this AL1's making $1,000. Extremely misleading, because we all know by the time that people get this thing, it's not going to make that amount. So for those of you guys who are new to the game, you guys are trying to learn here, understand that, right? So by the time you actually get it, it's not going to be making anywhere near this amount. To what extent, it's really hard to say. We can do predictions and go from there. Okay. So now that we have value, now that we kind of see where they're at, we see the efficiency, which is very impressive. The pricing is very impressive. Now let's see profitability and kind of like best case scenarios, because if this thing isn't looking too hot in best case scenarios, then that's definitely a no-go, right? But realistically, the kind of play with these things is that you're kind of degenning. Okay, you're kind of banking on the fact that you're going to be able to get a lot of yield in anticipation of future price appreciation. Okay, and it's up to you to determine where you would think would it be better for you, buying the coin or buying the unit. ALF just doubled in price within the past few days. So I wouldn't make the decision and then buy $800 with the ALF now. It would be more worthwhile if you think ALF is going to retrace, if you think it's going to go back down to $1.50, $1.20, $1.30, $1, under $1, and then go from there, right? Or if you think we're just going to be up only from here, because that does kind of change the dynamics on whether you think it's worth it to buy versus mine, okay? But realistically, the play here for me would be It's 100 watts. It's only 800 bucks. At this point, it's kind of a risk play that's like, maybe it'll work out. I think worst case scenario, over time with price appreciation, you'll even out. Realistically, I think it's going to do far better just because of the price appreciation. And chances are you may be better just buying the coin. Because the play with these things is going to be similar to Caspa, where if you are going to degen in, it's a game of speed. Is to try to get as much as you can early on if it looks worthwhile. Okay, and in this case, let's look at it. So, again, I wish Mining Now would start adding yield to this. I do kind of like their site a little bit better, but they need to add yield. Fiat profitability, I'm not too worried about. I want the yield. That's what I'm worried about. So when we punch it into a calculator, again, 400 gigahash to 100 watts, daily fiat revenue, about 22 bucks. And again, factor in though ALF did just 2x, okay? We're gonna focus on the yield here. We're gonna do easy math. It's closer to 11, but for easy math purposes, we're gonna call it 10 ALF. Based on projections, right? Let's say 2,000 units come on, it was gonna 20x. If 1,000 units come on, or the equivalent in hash of 1,000 AL1s, it would do a 10x, right? Let's be more conservative. Let's go again for more better case scenarios to see if it makes sense. Let's say it's only going to 5x from here, right? Which is probably more likely out of the bunch, especially now. So one big thing to factor in here is that because this unit is matching that bitmain unit so closely, I don't see too many people buying the bitmain unit at that price. I also, because it's a pre-order, do not see bitmain lowering that price until well after it releases. Okay, so because of that, it increases the likelihood that the hash rate that we're not going to get like 2,000 unit equivalent. Okay, because of this is going to definitely slow down those sales. But if IceRiver comes in with an extremely aggressive high-end unit, then that'll spoil things a little bit. The most ideal scenario is that it's a AL0, and then the mid-tier units are smaller in guys. They are like AL1, AL2s versus a AL1 competitor of the bitmain capacity, right? If they're smaller scale units, that increases the likelihood that the hash rate won't increase as significantly. Okay, so that's kind of adding to your bull case. So throwing a bull case scenario, let's say the hash rate only does a 5x. Okay, easy math purposes, your 10 ALF goes down to being 2 ALF. Okay, we're calling that a bull case. ALF is $2, that's $4. That's a good scenario. Okay, is it worth it? Is it a KS0 type scenario? No, that's not what's kind of going on here. Can it happen over time once you have the unit? Maybe. Maybe in 3 months, ALF does moon. Maybe the manufacturers pump it. Maybe something happens with ALF. It gets adoption. Something big happens. And it does pump early. That's when you took advantage of it. Because you already have the unit. Because then what if that does happen? What do you think is going to happen to these prices? They're also going to move. Okay, scarcity will also be a factor here. So that's what you're kind of degenning on. Okay, so factor in that where Alephium's price is. So we're speculating on 2, but we have to look at the potential here. So Alephium's currently it's about to crack the top 300. It's currently 171 million market cap. Is it possible that sometime during the peak of the bull market, we reach a 1 billion, 1.5 billion market cap? I think it's possible. It's possible it goes beyond that, sure. On the conservative side, I would plan for $1 billion. I think even if it doesn't do too hot, doesn't get too much adoption, I think that's possible, right? If it does get adoption, it does increase, then it can go obviously well beyond that. Okay, but I think on the more conservative side, I think I don't know. I'm extremely conservative, so don't go to me for price predictions. A lot of people have asked, oh, what's your price prediction? I'm super conservative on that front. My price prediction that I'd be extremely happy with is just 10 bucks. Okay, if we hit 10 bucks, beyond ecstatic. Obviously, if we go beyond that, super hyped. But I'm extremely conservative. So if you're asking me for confirmation of trying to be a moon boy, this ain't it, right? In that sense, I am kind of a bear. Do I think it's going to go well beyond that? Sure, I really hope it does. And I'm not saying that I think that's all it's going to do. I think it's going to do extremely well. This is one we've been talking about for almost going on years at this point. Okay. Okay, we've seen extreme potential. The potential's there. The difference here, though, it has not gotten the hype, the attention that Caspa has gotten. This coin has been around longer, is arguably more developed, but does not have anywhere near the attention, the adoption, the hype, the market cap that Caspa does. Okay? So a lot of people are seeing this like, oh, I can easily go to this. I would not compare it to Caspa. Caspa is more of an extraordinary situation, which they would be extremely nice if it replicated it, but I do not expect it to replicate it. Okay, I did not see it going this up this fast this quickly. Okay, but when we compare market caps at the time when the ASICs released, pretty similar. Okay, more potential kind of with Alpha on the Alpha side a little bit. So people started getting them in hand, give or take, late May, mid-May, early June, right? This was around that time frame. We can see here this price point. Market cap was about 300 milli. ALF currently, where they're currently at, it's 175 million. Okay, Caspa from that price point, if we look at the price, during that time moves in the 1.5 cent range. Okay, it's done over 10x since the ASICs have come online. Okay, so does that mean it's going to 10x from here? No, it's not even really a fair comparison, just because the emissions are drastically different, the amount of coins in circulation are drastically different, the inflation rate is drastically different, right? The market cap doesn't translate one-to-one, because you have to account for the amount of coins that are going to come into circulation by then. Okay, but it's just kind of things to gauge, things to look at. Okay, so kind of what you're speculating on is just future price appreciation, essentially, right? The advantage with these little box miners, the little AL0s, for example, is that it's only 100 watts. It's easy to speculate because of how efficient it is and the fact that it's only 100 watts. You can leave this thing plugged in and it's not something you're going to feel, right? Versus these bigger units, having to pay them monthly out of pocket, even if things are like break even or worse, it does kind of suck. 100 watts, not that big of a deal. Okay. So again, when we look at what your best case kind of scenario is, not looking super hot, right? Is it good enough to make a degen play and to buy one? Sure, I did. Am I expecting much from it? Am I expecting to like, oh man, this is going to be like a KS0 kind of thing? No, not at all. Okay, it's more of a just degen play. Maybe it pans out, maybe it doesn't. Maybe over time, hopefully it does yield more than it would by just buying, especially if Alephium continues to pump. But again, it just depends on your current stack, right? Like if you have 0, this might be the better place if you think that Alephium's price isn't going to retrace from here. If you're in the mindset that, yeah, these manufacturers are going to pump it, it's up only from here, we might just continue sideways, but this is the new low, then you might be pretty well off. Or if you think Alephium in the short term, in the next 3 months, is going to pump just because of these manufacturers jumping in, then it might not be bad, because then at that point you can stack some coins, and if it does pump, let's say has a significant pump in 3 months from now, you could potentially sell that unit for somewhere near the price you paid for it. Potentially, right, on top of the coins you see. So there's different strategies, different things to look at, but for me, this would be more of a just plug it in the background, kind of forget about it, let it stack coins. Okay. But based on what we know, just because, again, the fact that I know it's like tinfoil hatty, but the fact that these guys are on par, that kind of has me thinking that it's extremely likely that we'll see a unit with twice the efficiency. Are we going to see something with like 5-7x the efficiency? No. Like, if anything, it would be a similar jump to what we saw with the KS3 and KS5, where the next gen, if it were to come sooner than later, where it would be twice the hash at the same wattage, so twice the efficiency, right? So for those reasons, it makes it extremely risky to buy these bigger units, okay? At least initially on, unless it's priced extremely aggressively. What I would probably wait for personally, because again, I would be more interested in like a potentially mid to smaller other tier. I wouldn't necessarily be one to buy, oh, let me get 4 AL0s. I'll buy one just to mess around with, but I'm not going to be buying 4, 5, 6 of these things. I would wait for the mid tier unit, and realistically, even better yet, the hope would be that ALF continues sideways or drops down, and then we get the hash rate increase, fiat profitability goes down, and second batch prices go down significantly for those bigger units. Then that could be the timing. But the thing is, you'd have to time it to the point where hopefully, again, Alephium doesn't pump. Okay, the play here would be that, again, kind of a worst case scenario happens, that again, Alephium goes sideways or goes down. Hash rate does go up pretty massively. Profitability looks horrible. And those prices go down significantly on the second batch, which is what we saw from IceRiver on those future batches where they did cut pretty extensively. Okay, so that would be kind of what I would be eyeing at this point. I'm very curious to see, again, there are other units that did say it was going to be a series of units. But as far as like, again, people are going to do the comparisons of like the KS0, the initial KS0, and this guy, and they're going to be kind of looking for that similar play. Is that play here? In my opinion, currently, where Alephium's price is currently, no. Could it be potentially in the future if Alephium pumps, if these manufacturers pump it, or just pumps because of speculation or something positive happens? Then sure, and that's kind of your best case scenario. That's what you're kind of hoping for here. Because again, it is a small market cap. It does have a lot of room to run. It is getting a lot of attention. It is getting a lot of hype. So the potential is definitely there. Is it enough for me to throw 20, 30K into one of these things? No. Is it possible that if things do go really rough, people FOMO into these things and then Alephium goes sideways, hash rate does moon, profitability goes down massively, and these things go down to like 15K? Definitely more appealing, right? So that would be kind of where more my eyes, but it's just because it's not such a hot thing, like it's the risk to reward for me isn't there for bigger units. Okay, again, throwing the lotto on one, because hopefully we're baking now that not too many people buy these. Maybe the hash rate doesn't go up. Possibility there. The other big thing to factor in is if Gold Shell does indeed do the right thing and they do lower these prices, the advantage here is that the availability is now. These things are shipping now. So let's say this thing does drop to $19.99, more viable, right? We'd run some numbers, but realistically, because they did what they did already, I don't see that happening. They're going to look even dumber. But is it the right thing to do? Yes. But will they? Probably not. Okay, so definitely going to look at different dynamics. But just understand that if you're getting these things with the intention of like, oh man, I saw what happened with those people who bought the first KS0s, this is not the same thing, right? Alephium needs to appreciate pretty significantly for that to kind of happen. And is that possible? Anything's possible, bros, right? Like, I would not be the most shocking thing in the world that by the time this thing actually ships and we see the hash rate drop, that like magically the price starts to pump to kind of keep up with the hash rate increase, for them to try to offset for them to continue to sell these things. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world, because then at that point your unit just got a lot more valuable, right? So different things to think about. For me, again, worth getting one, worth getting multiples. Again, my interest doesn't really lie in the little guys, just because over time they turn into what these things have turned into already, which is essentially they're profitable. They're going to be stacking. They'll probably be profitable a long time because it's only 100 watts. But is it making a whole lot? Not really. Worth the gamble for being in on the first batch, and maybe other delays happen. Maybe the AL1 gets delayed. Maybe it's only these smaller guys and the hash rate doesn't go up as fast. It's worth the risk for 800 bucks, I think. Right? So totally up to you. But just keep in mind, if you order from the IceRiver website, hear conflicting info on the rate to get hit with tariffs. Just keep in mind the vendors will start listing here pretty soon, and most likely it's going to be at the same rate, right? Probably a little bit more because of the shipping. Typically, that's the advantage with IceRiver's website, is that shipping's only like 55, 60 bucks, where most of the resellers are like 80 to 100. So that's typically where the savings is, but just factor in that typically they're a little bit cheaper on the stores versus the IceRiver site. But in this case, because of the hype, I fully expect it to be either on par or even a slight premium. Okay, so factor those things in. But if you definitely don't want to deal with the potential tariffs, then there's always different stores, wherever you decide to purchase from. But hopefully they'll be listing here in the next few hours. But just kind of keep these things in mind, guys. Hopefully, if you do decide to buy one, it does work out in our favor. Maybe it does moon, but I'm not purchasing it with the intent of like, oh man, it's definitely going to be better. Like, I definitely don't have that confidence level. Because again, it's just so many variables, right? Like sometimes even running numbers, worst case scenario still makes sense, which is my typical criteria for buying these things, especially the bigger units. In this case, even the better case scenario isn't making a ton of sense, Okay, so like that's kind of the thing for me, is that if I do worst case scenario numbers and those things look okay, then that's good enough for me to go in. But at this point, it's extreme risk, just because again we're seeing the repeat from last time. Okay, IceRiver is indeed repeating the playbook. They are going to undercut them. They may struggle to sell these things depending on how much they undercut them, which to me already, the fact that they matched in efficiency and price, that's already good enough to dissuade a lot of people from this guy, period. Okay, so in that sense, in my opinion, they kind of already won that. And especially because it's not super likely that they're going to be reducing this price until well after these stupid profitability calculators go down significantly. Then maybe they'll go down in their batch or two, right? I guess the hope will be that maybe Alephium pumps and kind of offsets that a bit. But again, a lot of variables, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Are you in for one? I know quite a few guys did already order one. Some of you guys did let me know already. Let me know. Let me know. Are you guys waiting for a bigger unit? Would you guys consider like a big boy IceRiver unit, like a competitor to this guy at like 20, 25K? Is that kind of what you're waiting for? You're waiting for like a mid-tier thing? Or are you just skipping this thing completely? Right? I wouldn't blame you. At current price point, it's that. To me, again, it's the speculation factor. And in general, that's what bear market mining kind of is, though, right? So again, just depends on your viewpoint, guys. But let me know in the comments. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. I really do thank you for watching, guys. And I am out.